on demand. Glenn Beck.
Today is the 74th anniversary of D-Day. Now, I don't know about you, but over the years, this anniversary gets sadder and sadder. At first, I remember growing up, and there were World War II veterans everywhere, and, you could talk to them. But every year that goes by, fewer and fewer men alive were actually in Normandy on June 6, 1944. Those who are still with us are too frail to make the pilgrimage now to France for the anniversary ceremonies like they used to. It's sad that we're losing these people. I mean, it's normal. But once we lose them, once they're gone, we lose that tether to a time when the nation figured out how to be a better version of itself. Not that they were saints. Not that those times were any better than these. We rounded up the Japanese. But in some respects, they were better because they understood responsibility. They went, they toughed it out, they didn't whine. They accomplished an increasingly daunting mission. Sickening heartbreak, hardship, terror. Today, for those who remain that are World War II veterans, thank you. At the end of Saving Private Ryan, Captain Miller, the character played by Tom Hanks, he lays dying and he gives one last instruction to Private Ryan, the young man that he and his unit had sacrificed their lives to rescue in Normandy. And all he says is two words. Do you remember what they were? Earn it. In other words, don't waste the sacrifices that were made so that your life could be saved. Live it well. Earn this freedom. Earn it. Can we even say that anymore? That we've earned the sacrifices that were made by the Americans on June 6, 1944, or at any time that we're earning our freedom? Today, in the name of the game of politics, media, really all walks of life, when it comes to the choices that we make, we deflect, we defend, we shout down, we attack. Where are the leaders? Where are the real leaders among us? And one of the most amazing things in history that nobody really talks about was 5 a.m. on June 5th. Dwight D. Eisenhower, he had consulted with the Allied commanders one last time. This was it. This was the day they had planned for. This is the day they dreaded. This was the day everything turned. The weather was unpredictable. It had been bad for so long. The military was like a caged animal waiting every day. And then one of the largest gambles in history. It came down to one guy, Eisenhower. Ike had to make the call. Early that afternoon, just before, he sat at his portable table and wrote out a press release on a pad of paper. He wrote it out so he didn't have to think about it after the battle had begun and was being lost. It was a contingency just in case the invasion didn't succeed. He wrote it, and he kept it with him that day. He wrote in his own hand, "Our landings have failed. I have withdrawn the troops. My decision to attack at this time and place was based on the best information I had available. The troops, the air, the Navy, they did all that bravery and devotion to duty. They did all of it that they could do. If any blame or any fault attaches to the attempt, it is mine alone." A million things could have gone wrong. But in advance, he took responsibility. Honor, duty, sacrifice, personal responsibility. These used to mean a lot more. I think they will again. They have to. Man always goes through cycles. We're just in a downturn of that personal responsibility cycle. Everybody seems to want something for nothing. Everybody is feigning to be a victim. It's not too late for us to rediscover those traits as a country. It's funny because we've been in the position before where all seems lost. The whole world seems lost. And then at the last minute, we wake up. And we live those two words. At the last minute, we earn it.
It's Wednesday, June 6th. You're listening to the Glenn Beck program.
Today on television, we're going to be sharing another tribute to D-Day that is pretty powerful. A stark reminder of how hard it was on that day, 74 years ago, as we stormed the beaches of Normandy and just were slaughtered. We were just slaughtered, but we took the beach. An amazing sacrifice. And for what? You know, it wasn't for gold. It wasn't for treasure. It was for an idea. It was for an idea that this monster was trying to tell everybody what to think, what to do, how to live, how to raise their children, how to work, who should live, who should die. It was just this, it was unthinkable. It was just unthinkable in a world that it had exited that world. We had left, the West had left behind the darkness of the Dark Ages and Middle Ages, where one man could just decide whatever he wanted. Then he could just take whatever he wanted. Then he could grind people in the machinery that he had built. That was unthinkable. That was throwing us back to the Dark Ages. There was a new way. There was a way that Americans truly understood at that time. At least better than we do now. All men are created equal. And I know that you can say, well, were they really all equal? No, they weren't. Man has never gotten their arms around that. No matter where you go, no matter what the philosophy is, there's somebody always under the thumb of somebody else. Society always deems somebody at the lower level of the ladder. But it's an idea that we're supposed to strive toward. Not just say, well, that didn't work. No, we're never going to get it right. And it's going to ebb and flow. But right now there is this effort to discredit not only the people that came up with that idea, but the idea itself. Just throw that out. Why would we throw that out? All men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Why would we throw that out? Well, right now there's an effort to make sure that everybody knows that our founders they were so racist. They were so racist. How could Thomas Jefferson ever write those words? What a hypocrite. Well, he was a complicated man. Really? So he writes all men are created equal, and he doesn't even think of the slaves? The Declaration of Independence? Not a word about slavery? This has been the greatest privilege of my life. The privilege of being able to have access, which you do. It's just online. To have access to the original writings and documents. Yesterday, we were doing a piece on the Second Amendment and how people are trying to twist the words of the Second Amendment. And what was the original intent? What is the argument they're making? And is there anything to that? And because we're having our museum next week, and it's this little pop-up museum, and it's all about the rights and responsibilities, we brought in the engraving of the first draft of the Declaration of Independence. It's from the 1800s, early 1800s. And it is an exact copy or an exact engraving of the first draft that was written in June 1776, all in Thomas Jefferson's own hand. And you see John Adams and Benjamin Franklin in their own handwriting, scratching things out and changing things. It's amazing. It's an amazing document. And it's going to be on display here at the Mercury Museum next week. But as we were sitting there and we were getting ready for the show to start yesterday, Stu and I were looking at it, and I was upside down from it. And I've had this document for a long time, and I've never really read it all the way through. And as we get to the usurpations, those are all the lines. There were just one lines. And the king did this, and the king did this, and the king did this. And this is why we're breaking away, because the king did this. There's a whole paragraph. And it stuck out because as I'm looking at it, I'm standing on one side of the document. Stu is reading it from the other side. And I'm looking down and I can see Christian King all in capitals. And I said to Stu, what is that? And he's like, I'm just reading it now. It's amazing. Now, this is in Thomas Jefferson's own hand.
Slave owner, Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Evil slave owner that didn't want to write anything at all about slavery in the Declaration of Independence. This is from his draft that he wrote by himself in a room while his wife was miles and miles away dying. He's writing this.
Talking about the king. He has waged cruel war against human nature itself, violating its most sacred rights of life and liberty in the persons of a distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere, or to incur miserable death in their transportation thither. This piratical warfare, the opprobrium of infidel powers, is the warfare of the Christian king of Great Britain, determined to keep open a market where men should be bought and sold. He has prostituted his negative for suppressing every legislative attempt to prohibit or to restrain this execrable commerce.
So what did he just say? First of all, every single problem they had with the king, every single one prior to this is one line. This is a paragraph.
Yeah.
And what is he saying? This guy is mocking all of mankind and sinning against mankind by going over to a foreign land, grabbing people who never did anything to him, sending them over on a boat, moving them to a different hemisphere, enslaving them. If they make it, the journey they probably are going to kill. It's a horror-filled journey. And then he's doing everything he can as we try to abolish slavery. He is standing in our way. Well, wait a minute. What? I thought they were all slave owners that didn't care.
And pretending to be Christian while doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
They actually are mocking. They say, "You think this guy's a Christian? He's trying to continue this market where people are bought and sold." I mean, he's blatantly against slavery here, and we've talked about this before. In that he did have slaves, however, it was illegal for him to free those slaves.
Yes.
So that is a big asterisk to that whole story.
And he tried to change that law several times. And he couldn't get that law changed.
And as he's complaining, in the rough draft of the Declaration of Independence. Now, later on, South Carolina and Georgia, and there were some factors in the North as well, businessmen who did not want this practice to end, and they wound up taking this paragraph out.
Right. But it was at the request of 2 slave states. Mm-hmm. Now, you could sit here all high and mighty and say, well, why did they should have just let Georgia just walk. They couldn't. Because if they did, they would all, freedom would be over. Why? Read the next line that he wrote.
Let's see. Tried again, the suppressing every legislative attempt to prohibit or restrain this execrable commerce, and that this assemblage of horrors might want no fact of distinguished die. He is now exciting those very people to rise in arms among us and to purchase that liberty of which he has deprived them.
Okay, so
and murdering the people upon whom he's also obtruded them.
Okay, so what is he saying there? He's saying, on top of that, he will not let us free them. He will not let us stop this horror. But now he is going in and he is trying to give slaves money to fight us. He enslaved them, and now he's paying them to come and kill all of us. What? They couldn't let those two.
This line isn't in there, but the king was a douche. Let's be honest about it.
Okay. Well, again,
it's not in there.
It wasn't in there.
It should be in there.
Right. Real quick, read the line before. One of the other reasons why we broke away from England. Okay, there's a whole paragraph, but each line is just loaded. Most all other offenses by the king were just one line. Read this one.
He has incited treasonable insurrections in our fellow subjects with the allurements of forfeiture and confiscation of our property.
Civil asset forfeiture was a reason we broke away from England.
And you pointed out, Glenn, you usually get to access these online. Not the case this coming weekend. Or not this coming weekend. The weekend of Father's Day. Yeah, June 12th and 13th, right?
No, 15th through the 17th.
17th, yeah. Sorry.
All right, that's all right.
I'm looking at the wrong thing. But that's a pretty big deal.
Yep.
And you can actually see that document along with many, many others.
Yep. And it's going to be an incredible experience. And join us here in Dallas, Texas at the Mercury Studios. Rights and Responsibilities. You can get your tickets now at mercury1.org/museum 2018. You can take special tours with me or one of the other guys, or just join us. I'm going to be here all weekend. All of us are going to be here. We really want to see you. June 15th through the 17th. Great Father's Day gift. Tickets are on sale now. mercury1.org/museum 2018. All right, let me tell you, the June Fed meeting is coming up on the 12th and 13th. Economists are overwhelmingly predicting that the Fed is going to raise interest rates. If you have found a home that you're interested in financing, or if you're interested in taking advantage of today's competitively low rates, do it now before the 12th meeting. American Financing can help. Whether you're buying your first home, your next home, an investment home, let American Financing customize the right loan program for you. They're not a bank. They don't work for anybody but you. So they're not trying to jam down your throat a loan program that the bank wants. Pre-qualify in 10 minutes, close in as fast as 10 days. American Financing. Salary-based mortgage consultants that don't work on commission, they work for you. An A-plus rating with a BBB and over 1,700 Google reviews. They offer e-sign. You can complete your documents from the comfort of your own home. There's no upfront fees. They use every single loan available, and they're going to customize it for you. Licensed in all 50 states. It's AmericanFinancing.net. That's AmericanFinancing.net, or call them now, 800-906-2440. 800-906-2440. AmericanFinancing.net.
American Financing Corporation, NMLS 182334, www.nmlsconsumeraccess.org.
So Howard Schultz from Starbucks, I don't think he's running for president. Do you, Stu? I mean, he just came out and said, the guy who just closed Starbucks, okay, he comes out and says, Democrats, you've got to be more moderate. You're becoming crazy. Really? Did you just close Starbucks for the day because two people who didn't abide by the rules were asked to leave, and all of a sudden it's the crime of the century? It's like the Lindbergh baby. It was stolen.
Yeah, that was I must react in a way that will serve my future campaign.
Set me up to be president.
Yes. Look how seriously I took this. Of course you can trust me as your Democratic nominee. It definitely seems like that's what he's going for.
Yeah. And then immediately get out. So any of the backlash from that on sales or anything else, I left. I don't have anything to do with that, really. And immediately, as the door is still swinging closed, you're like, hey, you guys, we all have to moderate here and not be so crazy and reactionary.
Beck, Mercury.
Glenn Beck and his wife Tanya started Real Estate Agents I Trust because they personally were frustrated trying to sell their home. Most people have had a very bad experience when they hire a family member or a friend that is forced on them. And, you're too nice to say no. It's pretty natural, but it usually ends up badly for everybody involved. A home is usually the biggest investment we make in our entire lives, and you need to have rock-solid advice because if you screw up buying or selling a home, it's a disaster. Your financial situation is going to be awful. RealestateAgentsITrust.com is a network of over 1,200 agents all over America that are rigorously qualified by Glenn's team. Their experience, their marketing plans, character, the results that they get for their clients. That's how they figure this out. And they share your values. They listen to the show. Good people and good real estate agents at realestateagentsitrust.com. Go to realestateagentsitrust.com right now, realestateagentsitrust.com. Let these agents earn your business. Get moving with realestateagentsitrust.com, realestateagentsitrust.com.
This is the Glenn Beck Program.
So Stu will give us a quick rundown on the California primaries yesterday, anything that was important. We'll get to that here in a second. There is also a candidate running for the 3rd district in Utah, and he is a guy who is, another Mike Lee. He's a guy who, wants to go down that road and hold the GOP's feet to the fire. His name is Chris Herrod, and he is with us now. Hello, Chris. How are you?
I am doing great. Thanks for having me on, Glenn.
So tell me about the Republican congressman that you're running against right now.
Well, we had a special election last summer for Jason Chaffetz, but, he's a former Democratic chair, in Utah. He switched 3 days before I ran against him when I ran for the Utah House and ended up being appointed to go to the Utah House a decade ago. And so, he has a very spotty record. And, we had a debate this week, and he called me an extremist because, I'm a platform Republican. If you want to know how I believe, look at the platform. And I'll vote like Mike Lee and Ted Cruz. But that's kind of how it is even in Utah where, a platform Republican is being called out to be an extremist. He had as a mayor, he hired a sanctuary city police chief that said he wasn't going to help the feds do immigration law. Unfortunately, that police chief is Provo City right now. There's a sexual harassment lawsuit against that police chief, and the mayor had numerous opportunities according to the lawsuit to fire him and didn't. So there's a big difference in the way that we see the world.
So the Second Amendment, he is currently, this is Jason Chaffetz's old seat, the guy you're running against currently on the Second Amendment is for taking away their right to own a firearm until you're 21.
Yeah, no, that's a big difference for me. As we've had conversations before. I've taught in the former Soviet Union. I have friends that lost both their parents to Stalin's gulags. I have a business partner from Ethiopia that the communists came over, took the guns away, and within a decade, having had to shout "Red Terror" as teenagers were being shot down. And so for me, the Second Amendment is you cannot take that away, because to me it's actually an insult to our men and women around the world that can carry a fully automatic weapon, and then you're telling them they can't come home and purchase a .22 rifle until they're 21. I just cannot believe that anybody would think that that's a good idea.
Chris, when you were over in the former Soviet Union, what did you learn? What did you take away from that?
For me, the biggest thing is a lot of people talk about socialism. For me, it is not theoretical. My wife literally bears the scars of socialized medicine. I can say without any problem that socialism is wrong. It robs the individual of their full potential. It weakens the family, and it eventually morally bankrupts society. And yet our youth don't get that today. And, I'm a big believer that, not only do our congressmen need to stand up and vote right, but they need to get up and teach these principles. We have lost that. I mean, I spoke at a Second Amendment rally about 2 months ago at the Utah Capitol, and I thought this was great. There was 400 people, talking about how the Second Amendment could help us with school safety. And then I went around to the front of the Capitol where the anti-gun people were having a rally, and there was 8,000 to 10,000 people shouting, Utahns for gun control, Mormons for gun control. And I was absolutely frightened. I thought I was in 1930s Germany, seeing, Hitler's youth taking away guns, because I know where it leads. And the problem is these same kids that were speaking at that rally, they were talking about every other progressive agenda, and they don't realize that that system always leads to authoritative rule and loss of freedom. And they were calling people Nazis, and Nazi stands for National Socialist. The philosophy that killed the most people last century was socialism. You look at what Stalin did. Stalin starved to death 7 to 11 million Ukrainians in my wife's native country, and yet our youth don't realize they're going to need the Second Amendment if we keep going down this socialized path.
When you were over there, you knew a former MiG pilot and his family.
Well, actually, that was in Provo's Freedom Festival. I actually got to know him. It was Victor Belenko. He's the one that defected in the 1970s. He flew with his countrymen trying to shoot him down. He landed in Japan. I met him. I actually met a family, at the Provo Freedom Festival. They built a homemade hot air balloon and flew from East Germany to West Germany. So I've been fortunate in my life to meet lots of individuals that have paid a high price for freedom. But, for me, it's just frightening that our children don't understand, how lucky we are and how easy it is to lose freedom.
So, Chris, we have sent a lot of people to Washington, D.C., and I'd say 80% of them just, turn out to be disappointments at best. Only a few, like Mike Lee, stand, and I mean, they are under enormous pressure. What makes you think you're going to be able to go there and I mean, the enemy is not the progressive left as much in Congress as much as it is the progressive right.
No, that's exactly right. The way that I point that, I've stood up here in the state of Utah for, I've been called all sorts of names, racism, fascist, unchristian, uncompassionate, just because I believe that immigration should be done legally, and I've stood against it, illegal immigration. And so I've had a record of standing up, taking on the establishment. But I also, I have a beautiful wife that if, I ever went any other way, would constantly remind it. You talk about your wife, keeping you on the straight and narrow. My wife would do the same, but I've paid a high price here in the state of Utah. I've lost contracts because, I spoke for truth. And so I have a record of doing that, and for me, it hasn't been an easy path. I'm still kind of by nature a shy person. I have to overcome all these things, but I believe so much that our country is in jeopardy that it's just not worth it for me to go and immediately cave if I went back to D.C.
Chris, where do people go to get involved with the campaign?
Herrodforcongress.com. That's Herod, like the bad guy in the Bible, but with 2 R's. HERROD for Congress.com. I'd love to have some comments. If you feel like donating, I'd love to have you go there. But I believe these are the elections of our lifetime, and we need people. It's not if you think you can send me back to D.C. and I'll solve all your problems, I'll do my part. But I think it's time for all of us to pledge our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor.
Chris, thank you very much. God bless.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you very much.
I think we found an official slogan there, like the bad guy in the Bible. That's I don't think is that going to be on any campaign signage?
I don't think so.
Chris Herrod, herrodforcongress.com, HERROD for Congress.com. You can get him at Herrod, the number 4 Congress on Twitter.
It's important that you protect your home, your family when they are home. You need a great security system. How many home security system companies are out there that think, how can I really make this better for people by doing things that, I don't have to do, like protecting privacy? One of the things I love about Simply Safe is they are regular people just like you, and they still think just like you. That's why years ago they came to me, maybe 3-4 years ago, and they said, "Hey, look at this. This is our new camera, blah blah blah," and it was great, and it worked really well. It was great, and it didn't come out, and it didn't come out, and it didn't come out. I sat with them and I said, "So whatever happened to the camera?" And they said, "Well, we were thinking about it, And as we were putting it in our own homes, to try it out, we were like, I'm not comfortable with somebody with just an open lens in my house all the time. Wow, really? And they're like, yeah, and everybody else has to feel that way. So they redesigned the whole thing, spent like a couple of years trying to get a lens cover that you could hear open and close, get the right kind of metal that made the sound, could be durable for thousands and thousands and thousands of openings and closings, something that would make sure that they're protecting you from bad guys that are trying to get into your home and break in, but they're also protecting you from bad guys who are going to try to, view you from afar. It's Simply Safe. Find out all about Simply Safe and why millions of Americans are now using this. You're going to save a buttload of money. There are no strings attached, and there's no contract. Save 10% right now on your home security system from Simply Safe by going to simplysafebeck.com. That's simplysafebeck.com. Now, there's a new poll out that shows that Americans are just tired. When it comes to the news, they're just tired. They just can't take it anymore. I don't know if you fit in that poll, but I am. I'm tired of the media, and I'm just tired of the dishonesty. That's what I'm tired of. Look, just tell me who you are and tell me what you really believe, and let's work it out from there. But instead, we're just arguing back and forth, and the media's not doing anything to help move the discussions forward. They've gone insane. There was a story out yesterday that we're not, the rest of the media is not talking about because, we have to, hear the latest of Stormy Daniels or Samantha Bee or whatever it is. The Eagles, did you see what happened with the Philadelphia Eagles? Did you hear anywhere that Medicare now is going to go broke 3 years earlier than expected? It's going to go broke. It's expected to completely run out of money by 2026. That's earlier than projected. 2026. Don't worry, that's only 7 years away. I'm sure we can come up with a plan. We're not talking about that. It was sad to see that we are talking about Kate Spade. It was sad. It was good to see that we were talking about it. And sad because of what it meant. But as I was reading the comments, I was fatigued. The people who were saying, well, that's just what weak-minded people do. That's just what people do who are selfish. Really? If you don't know, Kate Spade is the purse person that made all these purses and became a very famous designer. And then lost control of her company. I mean, she sold her company. She sold like 56% of her company and her name. And so she couldn't do anything under her name anymore because her name had become a product. And she was fine for that at the beginning with the exchange. But then mental illness set in. And make no mistake, it is mental illness. You don't come to a place to where you say, I want to kill myself. Everything in the human psyche is built to stop you from dying. Every little creepy feeling when you get too close to an edge, to the spider senses that are saying something's not right here, I shouldn't be here. All of that is protection so you don't die. It takes extreme mental issues to be able to get to the point to where you say, I'm better off dead, and so are all the people around me. And it's a lie. People were writing last night how selfish it was for a mother to do this. I know. My mother did this exact thing when I was about the age of Kate Spade's kids. It screws you up for life. You never get over it. My nieces and nephews were the same age that I was when my mother killed themselves, when their father killed himself. They haven't recovered. It's been a decade and a half. You never do. As somebody who has been in clinical depression, somebody who has gone through a period of my life where I honestly considered killing myself. There's a huge difference between that and every bad time that I've ever gone through, where I thought everything was hopeless and this is never going to end and I don't know how we're going to turn this around and oh, my life sucks and whatever it is. That's normal. There's a different level to where you start thinking to yourself, I'm so tired. I can't do it another day. When you start to actually think that it's logical, that life is better if you weren't living, that others, their lives would be better if you weren't living. It's a mental condition to take a scarf out and hang yourself, as she did yesterday. The reason why I bring this up is because my life was saved by a guy named Bobby Dries years and years ago in the 80s. And he had gone through depression before, and he recognized it. And he said to me, you are coming with me to the hospital now. And he took me to the hospital pretty much against my will. And I'm alive today because of that. Life is hard. Mental illness is a condition. There is help and treatment. Your life is so great once the clouds start to dissipate. Please get help.
Glenn Beck. It's Wednesday, June 6th. You're listening to the Glenn Beck program.
I read an amazing article by a friend of ours, Paul Kengor. It's in the American Spectator. I think it came out last week, where he was talking about the Boy Scouts, and he said, congratulations on the Marxist-Progressive victory, the war against the Boy Scouts. It is a fascinating article, and I wanted to bring him on to talk about it. Paul, how are you, sir?
Hey, good, Glenn. Thanks for having me on.
You are one of the braver guys I know. First of all, your research in all of your books and everything else, really, really buttoned up. But man, you are opening yourself up to be the guy who is the king of the conspiracies, because you dare say this has been a Marxist, communist, and progressive plot or wish since the very beginning of the Boy Scouts.
Well, that's right, Glenn. I'm either brave or stupid, one of the two. But no, it's absolutely true. And I titled the piece "The Marxist-Progressive War on the Boy Scouts." And after I had finished writing it, I thought, I better start with a kind of a caveat in the very beginning, just telling people, I know the title of this article is going to make you probably not want to read it, but please read on. Mm-hmm. And when people read on, they'll see that I included hyperlinks to all the original sources, which are posted at Marxist.org.
I will tell you, Paul, I followed those hyperlinks. I mean, sometimes I follow hyperlinks. I followed every one of these hyperlinks because they were the original sources, and it's shocking. It's shocking.
It's shocking. And in fact, they go back. I mean, when I say that this is a century-long assault on the Boy Scout by Marxists, well, the Boy Scouts were founded in 1910, and the first example that I give in the article is a June 1911 piece published in Young Socialist magazine, and it's called "Why Boys Should Not Join the Boy Scouts." And they go through, they describe them pro-war, bloodthirsty, kind of gun-hungry, militarist, capitalist fanatics. And then after that, I give an example from the March 1924 issue of the Young Comrade, and that's called "Why We Are Against the Boy Scouts." And this one, I mean, this is unbelievable. I got to read you the exact quote because people will think that I'm making it up when I say that they charge that Boy Scouts would actually shoot their fathers and brothers. The actual quote here is, "Capitalism does not only train the Boy Scouts to shoot and use a rifle for its own interest, but to shoot down his own father and brothers when there is a strike." And that's the kind of thing they said that stuff for decades. I give an example from 1929, the Young Pioneer, urging people down with the Boy Scouts. In fact, this one's really insidious, Glenn. I mean, imagine this. There were like 15, picture this scene. You got 1,500 innocent boys from all across America, from California, from Oregon, Utah, the West Coast, the Midwest, and they're all there in New York. And they're about to take the trip of a lifetime on a boat across the ocean to England, where they're going to go to this international jamboree, and a bunch of literal young commies, right, show up in New York carrying banners, "Down with the Boy Scouts," "Smash the Boy Scouts," "Join the Young Pioneers," and then this one, "Defend the Soviet Union," right? And they're there protesting. These boys are probably speechless, thinking, I never saw anything like this in Peoria, right? but they did that through the 70s. I give an example from the 1970s. They did it into the 90s. The communists have done this into the 21st century. And here's the really sad thing. Anybody that knew about it laughed at it or ignored it. And, all these attacks by the far left describing the Boy Scouts as fascists and imperialists and dirty capitalists, none of that stuff ever worked until the 21st century, when they started to frame the Boy Scouts as anti-gay, right, as not including girls. And when they did that, and they got the ACLU on board, and they got the wider progressive left on board, that's where they finally had their tool, their approach, their tactic to take down the Boy Scouts, and that's what's finally worked.
So, where did that turn come? Was that an accident? Were they? How did that turn come to start to go? Wait a minute. Let's not go after the warmongering part, if you will. Let's go after the fact that they won't have girls. Have you tracked the origin of that down?
Well, it's a good question, Glenn. I think it's more of a kind of different elements of the left going in a common direction. And I found May 2001 issue of Party Builder. You got to love that publication, right? I'm sure you're a subscriber to Party Builder. And it's published at Communist Party USA's website. And right there, they were citing the ACLU, which was going after the Boy Scouts as being, quote unquote, anti-gay. And so at that point, there was finally, I think, a convergence of interests among the wider left, and that's where Communist Party USA said, "Aha, right? This might work." Describing the Boy Scouts as fascists who want to murder their fathers and brothers on behalf of against the workers, right? None of that nonsense ever worked. None of that ever stuck. But this idea of going after them as anti-gay. Now, here's something that might actually work, and I quote in the piece a July 2017 piece. This is from just last summer by John Bachtel, who's the current head of Communist Party USA. and he was writing on this massive national jamboree of like 40,000 Boy Scouts in West Virginia, and Donald Trump spoke there, and John Bechtel compared it to a Hitler youth rally, right? And that's the kind of rhetoric that they were using in the 1930s, American communists against the Boy Scouts. But here, this time, Bechtel just laid out everything, right? The slam against the Boy Scouts is militaristic, jingoistic, and then these words, right? Racist and homophobic. And they even tried the racist thing 100 years ago against the Boy Scouts. Of course, that didn't work. That was complete nonsense. But this homophobic approach, right? That's what's worked. And for the kind of old classical Marxists who've moved more in the direction of cultural Marxism based on gender, sexuality, a takedown and redefinition of the family and marriage, that homophobic, that label, that's what has really worked for them in allowing them to permanently redefine and actually even literally rename the Boy Scouts. For Scouts now in their adolescence, basically 11 to 17 years old, 12 to 18, they're no longer the Boy Scouts. They're now, I think, just calling them Scouts, right? They've literally taken the boy out of Boy Scout.
My wife was shocked when a couple of weeks ago, right before this happened, or right after this happened, maybe a day or two, she walked into the scouting headquarters, had to get something, and there was a skirt for girls to join. Wow. And she came and she's like, well, how long has this been in the planning? How long has this been going if you've already got the skirt? In the and my son immediately said, I'm out. I don't want to be around a bunch of girls. I mean, he's a 13-year-old boy.
Well, that's right. He's a 13-year-old boy, and my 11-year-old boy, he thinks that way as well. Now, maybe the 15, 16-year-old boys, they might want to be around the girls,
yes, which will cause all kinds of different interesting issues.
That's right. I mean, that creates an entirely different dynamic, and if you're a parent, that's probably a dynamic you don't want for your 15, 16-year-old boy, right? I mean, that was a time when you could have sent him off to the Boy Scouts camp, and it was a way of keeping him away from his interest with girls for a little while, right? That was the advantage of it. But if you go right now to the Boy Scouts website, or excuse me, the Scouts BSA website, it's filled with a bunch of sappy, puffy propaganda pieces all about girls. And I thought, Glenn, that maybe they would, if I went there, I wouldn't be able to find anything on it other than a general statement on a change in policy.
Right.
No, they're gung-ho on this. You could tell they've gone from defensive mode to full like recruiting mode, right?
This is really like McDonald's saying, you know what, we're going to get rid of all of the fried stuff and we're doubling down on salads. It's just, I mean, they have gutted this organization to where it doesn't mean anything.
Right. And that's what happens. I mean, at first I think it was about 10 years ago that the left, the kind of ACLU left, the atheistic left, secular left, they were going after the Scouts about merely pledging themselves to God. Right? I mean, that was part of it. They tried to remove that. And then the issue became gay Scout leaders. And then I guess this is about 2 or 3 years ago, the issue was the transgender Scouts. And so at that point, if you had a biological girl whose gender identity, her proclaimed gender identity was a boy, then she could be allowed to join. And so all along, and guys like you and I saw this coming, and we warned people, and they called us conspiracy mongers, haters, whatever else. But every step of the way, the Boy Scouts would compromise on one thing, thinking, okay, now the guys on the left will be happy, right? Now they'll leave us alone, right? Okay, we did gay Scout leaders, okay? No, as soon as you buckle, they keep coming back. It's like they smell the weakness and they say, now we've got you, right? Now we've got you.
Paul, tell me how much of a role did this this postmodernism crap that's coming out of our universities and our schools play, where there is no truth anymore. There's no absolute truth. There is no male or female. There's nothing. And how much of a role did beyond communism, this postmodernist thinking, play in this? And do you see a way to turn that around?
Oh, I think that's all of it, and it's all come out of the universities. I mean, this is very much the 60s tenured radicals who are now in charge at the universities. I mean, the very idea of redefinition of marriage, same-sex marriage, I mean, that changed so quick. I mean, we had people like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. I mean, Hillary Clinton saying, well, I've always believed that marriage should be between one man and one woman. I mean, I wrote a whole book on the faith of Hillary Clinton. I have a whole chapter on her traditional stance on marriage. And that all changed within a matter of months between Barack Obama coming out for same-sex marriage. I think that was the Robin Roberts interview in the spring of 2012, and then she, I think, around November 2012. But really going back before that, it just all came out of the universities. Postmodernism in the universities, kind of radical secular relativism, the idea that there are no moral absolutes, there's no absolute truth. And, you know, to kind of tie that back to some of the communist thinking, Marx and Engels wrote in the Communist Manifesto, they said communism represents the most radical rupture in traditional relations. The most radical rupture in traditional relations. We have an 1843 letter from Marx where he said that communism means the ruthless criticism of all that exists. The ruthless criticism of all that exists. And so that, you know, that's the hard communist Marxist left. But even then, as you know, Glenn, just the sort of general liberal progressive left, you know, not the Marxist left, but of course communists call themselves progressives and vice versa sometimes. But even among liberals, this strong postmodern streak, it's all now sort of come together where they're all on board for this sort of same cultural revolution here today in 2018.
So I have only about a minute. We're talking to Paul Kengor, political science professor and author of the Marxist-Progressive War and the Boy Scouts, American Spectator. You got to read it. It's unbelievable. And please do the hyperlink thing. It's unbelievable. But Paul, let me ask you, and I have about a minute left. Have you done any thinking about the ramifications of the loss of this 100-year-old institution? What do you think this means for our society to lose the Boy Scouts like this?
Oh, I think it's sad. I mean, I think just aside from what it means about the Boy Scouts, I just think it's a broader reflection of how we've lost. We've lost so much in the culture. The war of gender ideology that's going on right now. Critical theory, cultural Marxism, the social justice warriors. Obama's alma mater, Occidental College, has a Department of Social Justice and Critical Theory. I mean, this is the kind of thing that's being taught at our universities.
Is this a bumpy ride back, a ride from hell back, or do we come back from that?
I honestly think, Glenn, that anything short of a religious revival, and I don't see it turning around. I mean, I'm sorry, but when it comes to this, I'm probably Mr. Hell in a handbasket. I think culturally we're in really bad shape, and really nothing short of some sort of religious revival, and is going to turn this around. I see it as only getting worse. I mean, even the Masterpiece Cake Shop victory. Yeah. I don't know if that's necessarily a victory for religious freedom, right? Based on how it was written. Yeah. I mean, those battles are still going to go on. Read a couple pieces in the New York Times and by other people on the left reacting to the Masterpiece thing, and they just can't believe that anybody would dare cite their religious faith as an excuse to discriminate against gay people.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Paul, thank you so much. Paul Kengor from Spectator.org. The Marxist-Progressive War on the Boy Scouts. His latest book is also called Dupes, How American Adversaries Have Manipulated Progressives for Over a Century. Dupes. According to Redfin, homes have now sold faster than ever, and that's in April 2018. Prices rose 7.6%. That's a new medium high for the first time. The median price for a home in America is $302,000. That is incredible, especially if you think, I think my dad paid for our home $15,000 maybe when I was a kid in the 70s, 15. And people are not making much more money. I mean, people are making $40,000, $50,000. How do you afford a $300,000 house? How do you do that? realestateagentsitrust.com. They're going to help you sell your house and get the most money for it and have the fastest turnaround available. They have over 1,000 agents all over America that just like you, and they know what your house is worth. They know your area, and they have a marketing plan that is going to be able to have that house turned quickly. So if you're looking to sell your house or you're looking to buy a house, maybe even in a new area that you don't know, contact realestateagentsitrust.com. You need a real estate agent? You need the best. realestateagentsitrust.com. Welcome to the program. We are thrilled that we're just a few days away, a week from this Friday. We have our pop-up museum here at the studios in Las Colinas. We have the original handwritten Gettysburg Address on its way. That's mind-blowing.
So the original handwritten copy of the most famous speech
in America,
probably ever given in American history?
I think so.
Right?
That's pretty, I mean, wow.
Because, I mean, you know phrases from a lot of other famous speeches. You likely, if you went to school in the United States, probably had to memorize the Gettysburg Address at one point in your life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that big of a deal.
That's crazy.
The original will be here.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we're also going to have, they had the leadership training program going on with Mercury One. Sessions 2 and 3 are still coming up. Session 2 is a cool one because you start the weekend of this museum.
Yeah.
So you're going to be able to get to see all, I mean, you're going to get to see the Gettysburg Address.
You'll be volunteering at your time that weekend, I think. I think the students are going to be,
you're going to be putting it together.
They'll be putting it together. So the documents, we shared one last hour, the Declaration of Independence, the first rough draft of the Declaration of Independence, where Thomas Jefferson writes a whole paragraph just excoriating the king for slavery. Who knows that? I can guarantee you,
we're
your
told
history
the exact opposite.
We're told exact opposite.
And that's what this program is.
Yeah.
You're going to learn the real truth with the original documents. If you want to join, mercury1.org/LTP for leadership training program. mercury1.org/LTP. There's a couple seats available in sessions 2 and session 3. Go there now.
Please come and join us for a couple of weeks. Welcome to the program. So very, very glad that you're here. There's a couple things we want to tell you about that I think are kind of important today. Social Security is going to start dipping into their reserves. What reserves do they? Oh, the lockbox.
It's in the lockbox.
Oh, okay.
It is in the
lockbox.
lockbox. Yep.
Yeah, they have all those IOUs. So they're dipping into all those IOUs.
Al Gore has the key,
and they're gonna get that money from themselves somehow or another. But anyway, we're having to dip into that. Medicare is out.
Absolutely fine, I think is the words you're looking for.
No, I think it's
everything's
2026, 2029 or 2027 that Medicare doesn't have any more money left. But I think that's good. We should expand it. We should expand it. Also, Stu has a story that, I mean, if you hate women, you're going to love. You're
going to love this if you're a woman hater.
Right,
like I know you are if you're listening to this station.
Right. I know.
Come on, let's be honest about it.
We all hate women.
We all hate women. And you know, but I don't, Glenn.
You don't.
I am above this.
Okay.
I don't believe
it sounds like virtue signaling.
Oh, it is. I am signaling to you that I have virtue.
Okay. All right.
And I want you to know that this story about hatred, this one's from Sydney, Australia, but it could be here at any time. It could be here at any moment. Okay?
All right, I'm buckled up. I need to hear this.
Julia, which is not her real name, we're protecting her identity in this story.
All right, Julia.
Because it's so what she's gone through and proven.
It's got to be horrible.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it's got to be.
So she has been volunteering for a few weeks as a patient escort at the private clinic in Sydney. Now, the private clinic, they perform mostly women's health procedures.
Yeah, mostly probably mammograms.
Mostly mammograms, like 98% mammograms.
Yeah, but not mammograms, but they refer you to somebody that does.
Basically. And they also do another procedure, which is totally pro-woman. It's a pro-choice procedure. It's the type of procedure
rip the baby apart.
Well, it's about 50% chance that a woman dies in the process, but it's a pro-woman procedure. I want to make sure you understand.
Okay.
That a future woman surely, will die about half the time, but
it's very
pro-woman.
All right,
so
go ahead.
They have uncovered an incredible scandal here, and this is you're not going to believe what they've uncovered.
It's got to be pretty big. Julia's name is not a real name,
right? Mm-hmm. So Julia had been heard about an incredibly exploitive tactic used by religious anti-abortion picketers who approach women going to the clinic. You're not going to believe the incredibly exploitive tactic they've come up with this time. These bastards, quote, I learned that one of the things they do is specifically target people of color and migrant patients who are trying to access the clinic. These bastards, they're going after people of color and immigrants to try to have them have children. They're going to try to stop them from going into the abortion clinic, but it gets much more disgusting than that. I
don't know how Julia held up.
I know. Right, well, she heard about this and she figured there's no way.
Right. Well, they are. I will say that you underplayed the word targeting.
Mm-hmm.
So
thank you. I'm glad you pointed that out because the people understand.
Yeah.
So the patients are apparently told that if they keep their baby,
oh my gosh,
they will get free legal services and immigration help, and in some cases, free visas. You believe what they're doing to these people? All they want to do is have an abortion and kill their person of color from coming into the world. They're not going to come in that way. They want to just erase a person of color. And these evil religious people are coming up to them and saying, hey, you guys, you know what? We'll give you free legal help to help on your immigration issues if you keep your baby. Now, I'm with you. I can see the face you're making right now, which it seems like you're puzzled. And you're thinking to yourself, that can't be true, right? Am I right? You're thinking, there's no way someone would be that evil to stop someone from having an abortion and give them help with their legal problems.
No, but I don't.
You're thinking to yourself right now, no way is this true. So Julia decides to get a hidden camera. And go undercover.
Wow.
To reveal the truth of these bastard religious people.
Okay, so could I ask, when you say undercover, does it mean that she just took a camera with her as she was walking?
Well,
back and forth, or
she hit record on her phone.
Okay,
and then she approached the clinic with a male friend who is also Chinese Australian because it's not just Chinese American or Australian American. Here in Sydney, it's Chinese Australian.
You know, I will tell you that England has very few African Americans.
Yeah, almost none. They've almost deleted all of them.
Bastards.
They seem to be African Australians.
Yeah.
But they're still called, I think if you call them African Australians, you're a hate monger. But that's a whole other thing.
All right.
So here's the footage. This is going to hurt your soul. Listen to this bastard.
Okay.
Talk to Julia, our hero.
什么？讲乜嘢 ？Sorry.
This is not a good place. Let us help you.
Let us help you.
Keep my card.
Keep my card.
Information.
Here's my information.
Yeah. That you here. We help.
Okay.
You're here and we'll help.
Immigration problems, legal problems, medical problems.
Immigration.
All those things we can help you with. If that's why you're here. That's what you're worried about. Where you from?
If that's what you're about, we can help
China.
you.
I've helped other Chinese people we've helped.
Okay. Help how?
If you keep your baby, you call my number, see the card I gave you, has my number. That's me. And we can help you.
Okay.
And you can keep your baby.
Okay.
My name's Paul. What's your name? What's your name? It's your first name.
Sarah?
Sarah? Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah. And? Charles.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let us help you.
Oh, okay.
We have helped hundreds of people.
Okay.
This is crazy. So this is
okay.
Is this going on? Is this a setup?
Right. It seems like it's fake footage because what the Australian religious person who's anti-abortion, therefore anti-woman, is saying here is that he will help them with thousands of dollars of legal help. He will help them through their immigration problems. He will help them through their financial problems. He will help them in any way possible to just keep your immigrant minority child alive. Anything this group can do to keep your immigrant minority child alive, it wants to do. It's not forcing them to do it. It's not lying to them about it. It's saying we will offer you any help we can possibly do just to keep this child alive. This is being reported as a horrible negative.
Why do they hate immigrant minorities so much?
Right.
Why? Well, I mean, honestly.
This is a great point. Because we are told that these groups despise minorities, that religious groups despise immigrants, right? Conservative groups certainly do. And here's a conservative gentleman in Australia who just wants to stop abortion and is willing to break down every supposed wall conservatives have just to add to the population of minority immigrant children.
I think this is Stu. I think this is what people are tired of. You know that poll, that Pew Research poll I sent to you this morning?
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to look at that yet?
I just saw the email.
Okay. So basically it says that people are just tired of the news and they're tired of politics. They just can't take it anymore. And I think that's why. Because we've so unhinged from anything resembling the truth. And we know it. And we know it. You know, people, I want to fix immigration. I want legal immigration. I want to know who's here, where they are, and when they're going home. I want to reward the good behavior and punish the bad behavior. I want to invite the world to come and renew us and make us stronger. But you have to come through the front door, not the side door. Not a window, not break in the middle of the night. Mm-hmm. I think that's where most people are. Most people are. But the politicians and the news media, they're making everybody into monsters. And I think most people are like, I'm not watching this because I'm not a monster. And if everybody else is a monster, I just don't want anything to do with them anyway. And you hear that? And only the most... This is there to addict their people to outrage. Yeah. It is not to solve a problem. It's not to actually uncover anything of value. It is merely for the fringe group to raise money because they will be outraged because that's the pattern. And it happens on both sides, but we just look for things that we know will stir the pot and get people really upset and excited and raise money off of it.
I'm glad you brought up the addicted to outrage thing here, because with this story, that is exactly what all the tweets were about. They were left-wing pro-choice people saying, look at this disgusting tactic. These people should be ashamed of themselves. That was like the general theme of the commentary. It's like, wait a minute. If you are a hardcore left-wing activist who just loves abortion, is this tactic going to work on you? No. You're going to walk up to the abortion clinic and say, no, I don't need your help. Leave me alone. I'm getting my abortion. Mm-hmm. If you are a person, an immigrant, who might not want to go to authorities, who might not want to pop their head out if they happen to be illegal, if they're a minority community member who might not be in the best place financially and needs help in another area, and that's the reason they're resorting to abortion, they might want the child, but they don't believe that they can do it. Here's a person reaching in and saying, look, I will take away every single obstacle you have if you have this child.
Right.
That is an honorable thing to do.
Well, no. Shockingly, not if you are, quote, pro-choice.
This is opening choices for women.
It's opening up options. Sometimes you have no choice on what to do. Sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes, don't know the situation, whatever, and you feel completely trapped.
At least that's how they might feel.
Correct. Completely trapped. Here is new options, new doors. May not work for you.
New choices.
Mm-hmm. They are not actually pro-choice. And as we're seeing with all of the progressive nonsense, it is either their way or the highway. They want the death of this child, period.
Yeah. And the audio you heard there was a little difficult because it's on the street and it's through a phone and sitting in her pocket. But you can hear the approach of the guy. He is not, damn you, and you're
quote, targeting.
Yeah. He's just saying, look, I can help. We've helped hundreds of people like this. If you're having these problems and this is the reason you're here, he even said that. If this is the reason you're here, you're having these problems, we can help take those problems away. That is an incredibly... It destroys every stereotype of a religious person. It destroys every stereotype of a conservative. And it shows that life is first, right? You can say that you don't like the immigration policies. You can say that you don't like all this other stuff. Life is first.
What happened to the idea that we want them safe but rare? No, if you wanted them rare, you would be saying yourself, as progressives, as the left, let's give these people other options. Maybe they want to keep their baby, and we want to make it rare, so let's find out what's the pressure on them. Is there pressure on them? And some, no. Some, yes. Let's relieve that pressure so we can make it safe but rare. Or do we now understand what you denied for so long being true is true? You don't want it rare. You're looking to increase sales. A lot of people forget that's what this is. This is a business. Mm-hmm. They are making money off of this. They have sales projections. Imagine being in the media and being in the meeting at Planned Parenthood where they're having a meeting and they're saying, okay, we need more abortions. We got to hit our quotas. That's just sick. Blinds.com. Blinds.com will change the look of your home. Blinds.com, go to Blinds.com and see the before and after pictures. And it'll just get your imagination going. Blinds.com doesn't just say they're going to really remake your room. They do it. It's incredible. The before and after pictures of Blinds.com will show you how a room is suddenly transformed, totally transformed. Blinds.com, they'll guide you through the entire measure and installation process for free. You get free samples, free shipping, plus free online design consultation. Blinds.com, the #1 online retailers of custom window covering for so many reasons. Now, you'll go to Blinds.com and you'll see some of the before and after, and some of them are remarkable. Some of them are like, wow, that's really nice, a little outdated. Wow, look at it now. If you're looking for design ideas, you're looking to see how you can have a before and after experience, go to Blinds.com right now. Now through June 11th, you'll enjoy site-wide savings. Plus, you're going to take an additional 5% off at Blinds.com/Beck. That's Blinds.com/Beck. Rules and restrictions to apply.
Glenn Beck.
Stu, I don't think I could take another story like the one that you just shared where people were offering people going to get an abortion money and help and immigration attorneys. I can't.
I could top it with these two bastards from Sacred Heart University who raped this woman. When they basically admitted it. Basically, I mean,
when you say basically,
yeah, what? Well, they admitted to sleeping with her. They said the sex was completely consensual. Now, of course, they got dragged through the mud and are out of school and their lives are ruined. But the victim, Nikki Jovino, she has now admitted she was lying the entire time. So
wow, so they've victimized her twice.
Right. Yes.
Wow.
Hashtag her not so much.
Right.
I think is the...
Wow.
Glenn Beck.
I think the average American is just tired of seeing politics in absolutely everything. We're tired of seeing it in sports. We're tired of seeing it in TV and movies. We're tired of seeing it on coffee cups. Just give me a cup of coffee, will you, please? During his tenure at Starbucks, CEO Howard Schultz took every chance to bring politics into your coffee cup. He did it in small ways, like rainbow cups, and then in large ways with the initiative to hire 10,000 refugees and the recent countrywide shutdown of stores so that every single Starbucks employee could undergo anti-bias training. Imagine that. You're saying to everybody yeah, we know you've been here and we love you and everything else, but you're a bunch of racists. It's incredible. Now, this was just the result of the left that is becoming more and more hysterical as we all are becoming addicted to outrage. Can we all grow up, please? The left has to be in a bad way when someone as loudly progressive as Schultz expresses his displeasure with the left, as he did now in an interview with CNBC.
It concerns me that so many voices within the Democratic Party are going so far to the left. And I ask myself, how are we going to pay for all these things in terms of things like single payer or people espousing the fact that the government is going to give everyone a job? I don't think that's realistic. And I think we've got to get away from all of these falsehoods and start talking about the truth and not false promises.
Holy cow. You know what? There's a guy that I will listen to. I may disagree with everything that he says, but if you're saying, look, we can't afford all that stuff. I mean, let's just do the math. Let's just break it down to the truth and do math. He retired on Monday, 64 years old. He served his 2 stints for CEO of Starbucks, 36 years. He built the company to the Frappuccino empire that it has become. He earned for himself a net worth in about the $3 billion range. But he was there at the beginning. Almost immediately, news broke after this interview that Schultz is planning to run for a candidate to run for the president of the United States in 2020. He told the New York Times, I want to be truthful. I want to tell you, without creating more speculative headlines. But for some time now, I've been deeply concerned about our country and the growing division at home and our standing in the world. However, he also told CNN's Poppy Harlow, quote, I intend to think about a range of options, and that could include public service, but I'm a long way from making any decisions about the future, end quote. He's running. I mean, he's exploring right now, and if it looks like he could have a chance of win, he will run. And I imagine he dreams of running America, unfortunately. I hope this is wrong. That we don't have a president who wants to just run based on microaggressions and on bias. Although I will take a president that, runs on a campaign of pumpkin spice lattes. I'm not opposed.
It's Wednesday, June 6th. You're listening to the Glenn Beck program.
So, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, I saw an email, or I saw a headline about the Abraham Lincoln stovepipe hat and his blood-stained gloves, among other things, going up for sale because, oh my gosh, this museum's going out of business. No, it's not. I called and we reached out right away because we want to help them. If that were the case, that's not the case. They purchased a few years ago a collection we'll tell you about in here in a second. And it cost them, I think, $9 million. And it was worth every single penny. This museum, if you don't know anything about it, it is the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum. It's up in Springfield. It's just last week was voted the best museum in Illinois. And it is like a real presidential museum that they're building now. I mean, it has the largest collection of Lincoln papers and artifacts in the world. It has 40,000 square feet of just galleries, then theaters, then artifact displays. They have a reproduction of the White House of what it looked like in 1861. They have these things where they're, talking about the ghosts in the library that teach kids, the importance of libraries and museums, because museums are just, they're awful. They're awful. They're not anymore. And the guy who is really heading this effort and really making sure that this library remains the best museum in Illinois is the guy who actually was the founding director of the George W. Bush Library here in Dallas, which is an incredible library. His name is Alan Lowe, the executive director, and he joins us now. Hello, Alan.
Great to be with you, Glenn.
First of all, I want to fully disclose to the audience, so they don't think something funny is going on. You are bringing some of these Lincoln artifacts yourself down to our pop-up museum here in a couple of weeks, and we are thrilled. But I want, as I said to you before, and I want the audience to know, I am such a fan of what Alan and the Lincoln Presidential Library is doing, and these items must remain in their hands, that I want to expose you and help you in any way to raise money to keep these items in any way I can, Alan. So,
well, thank you so much, Glenn. That is so important to us to keep that Lincoln legacy here together for our visitors, for researchers. We're the place where that legacy is preserved and perpetuated. So we greatly appreciate your help, and I'm very excited about bringing some items down here in just a week or so.
So let's talk a little bit about the items that you bought. The foundation paid $23 million for the Taper collection. You have like a $9 million bill on this, worth every penny. Can you tell me the things that you bought in that collection?
Sure. It's an amazing collection of artifacts and documents about Abraham and Mary Lincoln. It includes, you're right, his stovepipe hat, one of the three known to still be in existence. It includes the gloves that were in his pocket the night of the assassination, covered with his blood, the fan that Mary was carrying that night, the presidential seal he used in the White House, documents going back to his youth, including the earliest known piece of writing where he was practicing his mathematics as we think maybe a 13 or 14-year-old young man, all the way through his presidency to the end of his life. So it just goes on and on, a great selection of Mary Lincoln documents as well.
Including her fan that she had that night as she was sitting in the theater?
That's right, with blood stains on the fan, sadly. So it goes on and on.
Who did this come from? How did this collection come together?
So a collector in California put it together over the years, and the Abraham Lincoln Library Museum was established in 2005, and in 2007 the state asked the foundation to consider purchasing that private collection, the Taper collection, and they did, as you said. They purchased it for $23 million. They've paid it down now to $9.7 million still remains to be paid, and that's our current big challenge right now.
And people can help you by just being a foundation member and actually giving money. That's how this was purchased in the first place, is with the foundation, and there's nothing you can do that I think is more important than preserving American history, especially when it is, not in the hands, and I don't want to involve you in politics here, Alan, but not in the hands of universities that sometimes will have these huge collections and it will lock it up and you won't see it. And this is all about Abraham Lincoln. So these are always going to be seen because Abraham Lincoln is the topic of this museum.
I always say, we're not here just to be a warehouse. We want to obviously preserve these items, but we want them to be used and to be seen.
So tell me about you guys are coming down to our cute little pop-up museum, and you're bringing the handwritten Gettysburg Address.
That's right.
Tell me about that.
So, of course. So the original Gettysburg Address, we're not quite sure what happened to it. Mr. Lincoln was very good with the press, and one theory is that as he left the stage, he handed it to a member of the media, and it's disappeared into history. But there were a few copies he wrote out by hand afterwards. And the copy we have, he wrote out for Edward Everett, who was the main speaker that day at Gettysburg. And not long after, Everett asked Mr. Lincoln to write down his remarks, which he did, send to Mr. Everett, who pasted them in a book with some other things from that day, which I think he sold to help veterans of the war. In the 1940s, the school children of Illinois, along with Mr. Marshall Field, helped purchase that copy of the Gettysburg Address for our predecessor agency, was the Illinois Historical Library. So we have that in our collection. It's in his it's his handwritten copy of it, and it's a pretty awesome thing to see. Kind of brings us to tears every time we open that box.
I mean, it's one of those things that you, at least my age, we had to memorize when we were in school.
Oh, very much so. I'll tell you, the international reach of this man, when I started here in 2016, that December, the outgoing Secretary General of the UN came through here, and he was on his way back to South Korea. When we got to the Gettysburg Address area of our museum, he turned to me and recited the Gettysburg Address from memory. He learned it as a young student in Korea. So you see that is probably the most famous speech in perhaps world history.
Yeah, we were talking about that just the other day. We were wondering, it's the most famous, got to be the most famous speech in at least America. And I can't think of any. I can't even think of anything close. And we were talking about this, that it's like, well, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, or the moon shot, or nothing to fear but fear itself. But those we know those because there was the press that could replay them over and over and over again. So we hear those. There was no press that was playing this over and over again. This one we picked it up because it was so powerful, and we said we should learn this. It
helped define America in a way. It became, in my mind, like a charter document. Lincoln loved the Declaration of Independence. He said every political thought he had emanated from that document. And I really put the Gettysburg Address on right up on that pedestal with the Declaration of defining what America means to us and to the world.
Alan, are you surprised at all about how many people? I had never heard this till I moved down to the South. And I moved down to the South. You'll meet these people, and they'll be like, Abraham Lincoln. I can't believe you like Abraham Lincoln. You're like, wait, what?
The War of Northern Aggression. I've heard that.
Yeah. There are people that still really do not like Abraham Lincoln, and they say it's because he violated the Constitution in all sorts of ways.
Right. Well, we hear that every now and then, suspending the writ of habeas corpus, and he did jail certain war opponents, and he talks about that as he goes through the presidency, why he's taking these steps to save the Constitution, to save the Union. He had to take certain steps, kind of an existential crisis, right? So you had to do certain things, but he knew he was kind of trotting along the line there of what was constitutional and what was not, all to preserve this last best hope of man. So I do hear that sometimes. You hear sometimes, well, he was a racist and so on and so forth. And my initial response to that always is, come here, come see these exhibits, come use these archives, come, take part in our programs, really learn about the man, what he stood for, and you'll see that's all wrong.
I will tell you that we have a piece through Harlan Crow. I don't know. I'm sure you know him.
I do, yeah.
And Harlan has collected this amazing writing from Abraham Lincoln long before he was president of the United States, trying to, as an attorney, explain to the American people why slavery is wrong and how people are people, and it debunks everything that you hear, and yet somehow or another that racist, he didn't care about the slaves, he didn't care about black people story is the winning one right now.
Yeah, he said if slavery's not wrong, then nothing's wrong. And what you see, though, with Lincoln is a real, despite what some of his critics say, a real adherence to the Constitution. So he knew, sadly, that some protection had been written into the original Constitution. And so when he went into office, as you know, what he said is slavery will not spread, right? And then the hope was over time it would be extinguished. Now, he realized also that's why he so supported the 13th Amendment, is he knew the Emancipation Proclamation was a wartime measure done as commander-in-chief. How do you make sure that the stain of slavery is removed from that Constitution? That was the 13th Amendment.
Any doubt in your mind that if Abraham Lincoln would have lived, that Reconstruction and all of those dark times would have been different?
No doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. And I will tell you, one man who deserves more credit than he gets is Ulysses Grant for what he did try to do, to remain true to what he saw as Lincoln's vision, in helping the freedman and helping rebuild the South and so forth. But I have no doubt that it would have been a much different place if Lincoln had survived.
Alan, thank you so much. God bless you, and we'll talk again. See you next week.
Look forward to it.
You bet.
Thanks, Glenn.
You bet. Alan Lowe, he's the executive director of the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library and Museum, and he's joining us. And he'll be here. I think he's required to be with the Gettysburg Address the whole time, so you're going to be able to talk to him and ask him.
Considering how chocolatey your hands get from the chocolate bars you're eating all the time, he should be around those documents.
Right. Well, I mean, I could not eat chocolate that... No. All right. Anyway, June 15th through the 17th, tickets are on sale right now. You can come and join us. mercury1.org/museum 2018 makes a great Father's Day gift. It's Father's Day weekend, June 15th through the 17th. I'll be there, and I hope to see you there. Grab your tickets now. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the future. Yesterday, we talked to you about this new computer that is 1,000,008% faster than the computer that was deemed a national security threat, and that was the Apple G4 when it first came online. You couldn't ship that computer outside because it was deemed a supercomputer, so it couldn't leave the confines of the United States. Well, now this one is 1,000,000% faster. The Apple was $10,000 when it came out, and this one is $1,000 now. Think of this with technology. Everything is going to be moving so fast, and the world is changing. So, currency, what happens with that? Cryptocurrency and blockchain, they are the future. It is, one way or another, this is going to happen. God forbid they're state crypto, but cryptocurrency and blockchain is something that you need to understand. We are not experts on it, but we found one. Tika Tawari, he's from the Palm Beach Letter, and he put together a crypto master course that I would really like you to take if you're thinking about buying or selling or just want to understand the new technology. It's all about blockchain. It's all about crypto. And you can take the course now at smartcryptocourse.com. Smartcryptocourse.com or call 877-PBL-BECK. That's 877-PBL-BECK. Smartcryptocourse.com.
Glenn Beck.
You have a guy like Abraham Lincoln who dies and... his obituary is still being written and the lives that he changed. And then you have people like Kathleen Schunk. Did you see the obituary written by her children after she died? She just died. She was 80 years old. Kathleen Schunk, born March 19th, 1938 to Joseph and Gertrude Schunk. She married Dennis Demlow at St. Anne's in 1957 and had two children, Gina and Jay. In 1962, she became pregnant by her husband's brother, Lyle.
What was that last?
1962, she became pregnant by her husband's brother, Lyle.
Oh, okay.
And moved to California.
Okay.
She abandoned her children, Gina.
She what now?
She abandoned her children, Gina and Jay.
Mm-hmm.
They were raised by her parents.
Okay, so she slept with the husband's brother, and then
got pregnant, and then moved to California and abandoned the kids who she just left them with grandma and grandpa.
Seems like you might want to leave this out of the obituary.
She passed away on May 31st, 2018 in Springfield and will now face judgment. She will not be missed by Gina and Jay.
Wow.
And they understand that this world is a better place without her.
Holy crap.
Holy cow.
I mean, that I do find some humor in that, although it's very sad.
It's tragically sad.
Yeah.
You imagine? I mean, first of all, it's sad for one reason. I mean, in 1962, she moved away from her kids. So think about, her kids are at least my age. And they're this pissed still.
You hope you have time to repair relationships like that.
Yeah, well, she did. She didn't take it, apparently.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
You want to, I don't know. That's one of the goals you have in life, right? I mean, I'm sure there's people you don't get along with. Like, at some point, you want to try to revisit those things if you can. Well, if they're valuable. If you're
at least just so you don't get an obituary like this.
You're listening to the Glenn Beck program.
64-year-old Cleveland man suing U.S. Customs and Border Protection after agents strip searched him at the airport in October and took more than $58,000 in cash from him without charging him with any crime. This according to a federal lawsuit. Customs agents seized the money through a process known as civil asset forfeiture, a law enforcement technique that allows authorities to take cash and property from people who are never convicted or even charged with a crime.
I've had a bunch of these too that are one's more egregious than the next.
So tell me about this story, Pat, because Pat Gray joins us. You've been following this story. 64-year-old guy.
Yeah, heading back to his native country of Albania, and he wanted to put a down payment on a retirement home. He wanted to retire on the Adriatic Sea, and he said some of his relatives were really struggling hard, and so he was going to help them. And so he took his entire life savings, converted it to cash, $58,100. And put it in 3 envelopes that he carefully counted several times, and then put the 3 different stacks into one envelope, labeled it $58,100. And when they saw it go through, because he had it in the carry-on, you wouldn't want to put that in your luggage; that'll be taken by somebody. But it was taken anyway, of course, because he put his bag through the scanner, and they saw that there was cash there, and they confiscated it. Just took it. And eventually they gave him a receipt for U.S. currency. Didn't say how much. Didn't say when he'd get it back. Didn't say what he was being charged with. In fact, he wasn't being charged with anything. They just took it. And so it's been like 6 weeks now since that happened. He still hasn't gotten a penny of his money back. They have absolutely zero evidence against him or his family that this is any kind of drug-involved money. In fact, I mean, from the circumstances, it's obvious. He's just an Albanian American who was going home and wanted to use his own money that he worked his entire life for. He speaks very little English and had a real problem at the airport. And I don't know how much that contributed to it, but he's got a lawyer now, and he's got some justice organization that's trying to help him get this money back.
Okay, so here's the interesting thing. Guy comes into the airport, has an envelope, $58,000. We now know that in the Minneapolis-St. Paul airport, over the last 4 years, literally millions of dollars in cash, in suitcases, carry-ons, have been taken out of this country and gone into hostile regions of the world, to Yemen. They were on their way to Yemen.
That's not forfeited.
Why? Wait, I can take $1 million in cash on my way to Yemen, and I'm not stopped? It's not civil asset forfeiture? How's that possible?
I think this is an evil law, and it needs to be overturned. But instead, it's going the other way. President Trump and Jeff Sessions in particular are in favor of making this easier to confiscate people's money.
It's wrong. It's wrong.
The reason is, look, it makes it easier for law enforcement to, stop someone who is not, who might be guilty of something, but there's not enough evidence to actually convict them.
Wait,
then they shouldn't be.
Then they're not guilty.
Convicted.
Right. If you can't
Seems
make
like a technicality,
the case,
yeah, you can't make a case.
No, if you can't make the
you
case,
don't have a case.
You don't have a case. We put this. Why we put Al Capone in prison for income tax evasion. We could not make the case because he wasn't killing anybody, and anybody who wanted to testify against him ended up dead. So we had to go after him for income tax evasion. That's what you do You find where they are breaking the law and you make that case. You can't just take people. Well, we couldn't make the case. Well, then you don't have a case. I mean, how many Law and Orders do we need to watch where they're like, you got nothing. Get out of my office. I mean, every law show is always showing the prosecutor saying, you're bringing me this crap? I got nothing. I can't go before a judge and say all of this. I got nothing. I don't know why he sounds like Jimmy Durante all of a sudden, but
but that is it. I mean, that's an inconvenience for many to actually have to prove those cases. And look, especially with this one, there doesn't even seem to be an attempt at a case. They found it suspicious.
They're not even trying to manufacture anything. They're just saying I'm sorry. This was a smuggling, drug trafficking, money laundering situation.
If they don't get this under control, if they don't stop this, the American people, this will be something that turns the American people against their government.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it starts,
and it should be if it keeps going like this.
If it keeps going like this, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. If people start saying, average person that you know, and they're like, dude, the government just seized my bank account and took all of my money. Americans will start to see this is going to happen to me, and it will be over.
And
they will rise up.
How many times have we talked about this? There was the guy, I think he had a pizza restaurant, remember? And he was making deposits in his bank of cash that he received during the course of the day or week. And then he would go to the bank and deposit $9,000 at a time because he was told, deposit $10,000 in cash and they're going to think you're doing something seedy. And they confiscated his money, $30,000 because it looked like
Why does he keep doing $9,900 every time?
Because he was told.
Because he was told. That's how you do it.
Did we even do the story on the air? Because this is an amazing one of what Chicago is doing to its residents with a very similar concept with cars, impounding cars. What they're doing is for example, there's this guy who he ran an auto repair sort of business, and person comes in with their car, it's getting fixed. He needs to bring him back to work. So guy hops in his car. He takes his own car, his own personal car, drives this guy back to work. On the ride, he gets pulled over, and that guy, his passenger, who he doesn't even know, he's just a customer, has drugs in his pocket. They impound his car. The guy who owns the auto repair business, they impound his personal vehicle, and they hold it behind closed doors with a massive payment to free it, and then charge him storage every day. So it's thousands and much more than the value of his piece of crap car at this point. Thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and he can't get his car back. They're putting him out of work because he can't get back and forth to work.
Is this still going on?
It was as a few weeks ago. It was something I printed out for prep. I don't think we ever got to.
Let's call him. Yeah, I never heard that. Let's call him. Let's get him on.
Incredible. And they had multiple stories just like it from Chicago. And it was all under the pretense of they can't pay their bills in Chicago anymore. So this is what they're trying to do to take people's money is impound everything for every reason, charge exorbitant fees, and take regular people's money who either did something very minor or nothing at all.
It's not America.
Civil asset forfeiture. It's coming because we're not going to be able to pay our bills. The cities and the states are not going to be able to pay the bills.
I got news for you. You're not going to pay the bills by taking $58,000 from every American.
No.
You're still not going to pay our bills. You're going to have to start civil asset forfeiture in China. And India, and all of Asia.
I mean, and you look at that case with the Albanian guy on the airplane, and you might say, well, I don't know, it does sound a little suspicious. Why is this guy bringing $58,000 to Albania? Now, to me, it's his freaking right. It's his freaking money. He can fly wherever the hell he wants with as much money as he wants.
Seems totally reasonable that he wants to buy a home.
Right.
So he wants to buy a home. Second. We used to be the country where we didn't trust the banks, and so we would put our cash in our mattress. Now the government can come into your house for any reason. They just have a feeling you're doing something wrong. And they find cash in your house. They can take it.
Yeah. And
they can take it.
You're told to keep the receipts because that will be your proof that you had it legitimately. He had 13 years of documents with the bank that he kept meticulously and showed them and still didn't get his money back.
Yeah. And if you are the person who thinks that, it's a little suspicious, I mean, they kind of explained it in the article. Apparently, the Albanian banking process maybe not as buttoned up as America. So,
which is why you didn't trust it.
So in other words, if you had money in the bank and you wanted to transfer it, somebody, maybe even a government official, might take it.
Yeah, and then, without explanation.
That could never happen here. That's the good thing.
That's why he did it, though. Yeah. I mean, he didn't think it could ever happen here, and then yet here it has happened here.
How sad.
How un-American.
How un-American and how sad. Oh, and we're, it's an immigrant. We hate immigrants. You know what makes me the most sad is, what makes me frightened is this growing out of control. And it doesn't seem to be stopping, and it doesn't seem like anybody in power wants it to stop. But what makes me sad about this is, here's a guy who worked hard his whole life and was probably going home with a great story to tell about America and how different things are in America and how great things are in America.
And look at me. I was able to save $58,000.
Right. You guys stayed here and you're really struggling, and I'm able to come back and help you. And America has its problems, but boy, is it, it's better than this. And this happens on your way out.
Building the American dream so we can crush it. And you and your family.
I mean, probably the right answer here is that it never happens, right? You take the money after you convict them, period.
No, it was a good idea at the time. When I was 18 or something, when they started doing this. When did they start? When did this start with the drug lords? 80s, 90s?
Probably in there, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was in the early 80s, but maybe it was in the 90s. But when they started doing this, you were like, yeah, well, that's good because the drug lords, they're really bad. No, first they came for the drug lords. Then they come for you at the airport.
More on Pat Gray Unleashed coming up here in a few moments on the Blaze Radio and TV networks. You can also subscribe to the podcast and listen whenever you want on iTunes and wherever else you get your podcasts. That's an amazing one. I mean, there's tons of these stories, man. And look, you can say a lot of times, they are drug dealers, they are criminals, and if you like the asset forfeiture laws, you can say there are good uses of it, blah blah blah. I'm a little iffy on that, but still,
no. You are innocent until proven guilty,
and that's what trumps it all to me. But still, even if you believe that it's necessary at times for certain reasons, there are thousands of abuse stories of this, and those need to be corrected. There's no reason to be strengthening these laws. At the very least, it should be at the very last resort, if you want to even consider it. I don't particularly want to, but if you want to, it should be a last resort process, not something we jump to every time you get pulled over because they're able to do it.
That's what happened to a couple in Texas.
Yeah, it's happened in Texas.
They're driving a lot.
Yeah.
A couple driving in Texas. I think they were on their way for an adoption thing, and they had $10,000 in the car, lost it, never got it back. I mean, what is happening to us? All right, let me tell you about Goldline. As we're thinking about paper money and banking and all of that stuff, a little physical gold, might not be such a bad idea. Inflation is rising, and one of the few investments that can thrive in inflation is gold. It's one of the major reasons that I own it. I don't want to wake up one day and find out that my dollars are worthless due to inflation and I have no asset to protect me. Now, if you think this can't happen, didn't we just say that with civil asset forfeiture? Other countries have had such bad inflation that they've had to print new denominations just to keep up. One of those countries is Venezuela. Another one is Zimbabwe. Goldline is going to give you a free Zimbabwean $10 billion banknote. Yes, it's a $10 billion bill. You keep that in your wallet. All you have to do is just call them and speak to one of their executives and talk to them about buying gold or silver and find out if it's right for you. They're not going to sell you on it today. They don't want you to buy anything today. You just call them and ask for their information. Also ask them for the banknote because it's kind of cool to have. 866-GOLDLINE, 1-866-GOLDLINE. Find out if gold or silver is right for you at goldline.com. Read their important risk information. Make sure that it's right for you at 1-866-GOLDLINE or goldline.com.
Glad we're finally done with the show. I got to get over to IHOB.
No, it's IHOP. It's IHOP.
IHOB.